One of our newest sponsors, Adam, is the Waza Flow soccer team. The Waza Flow roster is made up of players from all over the globe that have played collegiately and professionally in the United States and abroad. Countries represented on the Waza Flow roster include Albania, Brazil, Bosnia, Canada, Kenya, Malta, Mexico, Romania, Serbia, the United States, and Yemen. The Waza Flow will be part of the Major Arena Soccer League 2 and will play in the Eastern Division against teams from Cincinnati, Chicago, Muskegon, Denver, and Colorado Springs. So for all information regarding the Waza Flow, go definitely check them out. wazaflow.soccershift.com. That's wazaflow.soccershift.com. Go check them out. The Major Arena Soccer League.
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Thanks, everybody, for downloading the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? Episode 286 about to kick off.
Man, it's been a rough week for your boy. My engine blew up on Sunday morning. You know when it was like ice cold, like the coldest day of the year? Yeah, my car decided to take a shit on me, which was brutal. I'm out in the cold trying to jump it with jumper cables because I thought it was a dead battery, which didn't make any sense because battery worked just fine the other day. No, it turns out the master seal on my engine went. Drove around for roughly a half hour with no oil in my engine. I had no idea whatsoever. It wasn't like it was making a weird noise or anything like that. It did feel kind of sluggish, though. Stopped to get some gas. Some bitch wouldn't start. Had it towed. Guy was like, yeah, it's a wrap on that engine. So now I have to take it to a dealership. Luckily, my powertrain warranty expires on February 14th, roughly 3 weeks from today.
Ooh, lucky you.
So lucky. And now there's no guarantee that it's going to all be covered by the powertrain. I'm assuming it will be. I'm waiting on the guy from the dealership to give me a call back and give me a yay or nay on all this. But it sounds like, when I say it sounds like 75%, maybe a little bit more, that it all will be covered by the powertrain warranty. What the hell, man?
You want to know how pathetic my life is?
Yes, Brian, tell me.
Well,
I might rival you.
Are you worried at all when you're on the side of the road? How are the drivers? Do they give you space? I mean, a lot of people will say these days it's almost really challenging to get out of your car because people don't pay attention. They're on their phone. I don't want my boy getting smushed up against his car just trying to fix his car.
Yeah, I got lucky.
It's scary.
I pulled into the gas station. It died on me in the gas station. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I was driving home the other night. You know how we've had just nothing but ice storms and frosted weather? It's just been brutal. I was driving home the other night, and there's this guy. Everybody's basically doing 20, 25, and a 40, right? And we're all just kind of cruising along because you can't go very fast because if you do, you're going to slide out somewhere. There's this jabron on my side who starts laying on his horn because people weren't going fast enough for him. Dude, you're going no place fast. Just get there safely. Honestly, if you show up late to something, nobody's going to care. I went into work today, and I left the house 10 minutes early. Normally, when I show up for work, I'm usually 5 to 10 minutes early, right? So I leave an extra 10 minutes early. Guess how much later I was when I got to work? I was 5 minutes late. So just factor all that time in. That was an extra 30 minutes today to my drive. It's what it is. Just deal with it. Just get there safe. I seen my boss. I was like, look, I was before you even check time cards, I was super late. I was 5 minutes. And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, you got here safe, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, all right. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Would you rather me die or would you rather me get there safe? Just get there safe, people. Don't be an ass. Just drive.
Well, I'll say this. I
Watch
think
out for people on the side of the road, too.
You and I are in the same boat in that we're not putting any money into four-wheel drive. And I think that what happens is people that have four-wheel drive feel this sense of empowerment because I saw all the trucks. And the way I drove to, on Saturday, I drove to Detroit Mercy versus Oakland at Callahan Hall. And I took 75.
It was a great game, by the way, wasn't it?
It was awesome, fun to be at. And I took 75. I drove 35 all the way down. And I was comfortable. I was like, you know what? This hour drive is calm, relaxing. There's really nobody on the road. But then there would be these trucks that were zooming by, feeling like they were the kings of the road. And I just said, you know what? If you have four-wheel drive, I guess I can understand you feel empowered. You feel like, you know what? I can just hit on the brakes and nothing's going to happen. You don't slide. Well, when you got these little cruises and little cars, the car kind of slides around a little bit and you don't feel as comfortable, so you drive slower. So, man, if you have four-wheel drive, respect it, but also have some compassion for us, for those that don't have four-wheel drive that are just going 35, going slower. Because remember, the advice that all the television stations, all the radio stations, everybody says is when it snows, slow your ass down.
Yeah.
And there were people riding up my ass, riding up everybody's ass.
I just don't get it. That was my morning this morning. I had a freaking a Cadillac CRS or CVS or whatever the hell it was, just in my hip pocket this whole morning. And I'm like, dude, what happens if I have to slam on the brakes real quick?
Is it our fault? Should we just...
You're going to be in my back seat.
Is it our fault? Should we bury the hatch and get the four-wheel drive?
No. It's just people are idiots. Look, man, if it's icy out, you now have four wheels spinning on ice. So you have zero traction. None whatsoever. If you at least have two-wheel drive, generally, though those back wheels, if you've got front-wheel drive, can try to stick on something. They're not spinning like you have with four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It's people just need to slow down. Like, you got to understand, not everybody has the souped-up vehicle you have. That's one thing. Two, you got to drive for the conditions. Like, if it's a blizzard out, what are you doing? If it's a monsoon and you can hardly see in front of you, what are you doing? Be smart. It's not like it's a random June day and the weather's all broke and everything is nice. It's sunny out and it's roughly 80 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. It's not like that. It's not like you can throw your top down and just go cruising up and down 75 or crash it. You just can't do it. You know, it's crappy out. Just be regular, people. That's all you got to do. Just be regular. You don't got to be a superstar. Where are you going so fast? Slow down. Honestly, slow down. It'll be okay.
But you know what? It seems like if you have four-wheel drive, you have this sense of control. I mean, right now, I haven't driven with four-wheel drive in so long that I forget what it's like. I recall maybe 3-4 years ago having it, but I think that we should probably think about doing it because I think you and I probably be like, oh my God, the control you feel, that you're able to drive. Because my wife is like, no, don't go. I'm like, dude, I'm going to leave at 11. I'm going to be back at 5. It's a day off. I just want to relax, go watch the game. She's like, no, don't go do it. The kids are all freaking out because they played outside earlier in the morning. And I'm like, dude, I'm a good driver.
You have a whole house full of women too.
I gotta
Holy cow.
Everyone's worried. I'm like, no, you just drive slow. You can drive anywhere you want in Michigan as long as you drive slow, give space. But and then you know what? Coming home, there was this idiot fishtailing on the Davison, and I'm like, oh my God, why?
Yeah.
Why? And I'm like, oh my God, this guy gonna crash? No, he's actually actively controlling his car, fishtailing in the middle of a highway. That's what we got here in Michigan. I'm like, you know what? I think sometimes
some people feel just too safe is what the problem is.
Yeah, you got to bury the hatchet sometimes, and just, you know what? Sometimes you do got to spend. And before we start talking about the great topics at hand, the NFL, the games were great, although you napped through it, which I'm kind of surprised by. We'll talk about that.
I didn't nap through all of them. I was in and out. It was a weird Sunday for me. All right. I was exhausted, is what it was.
Hurricane Stiz gets into our question regarding is it mandatory to have...
What's that name?
Hurricane Stiz is what it is.
Stiz?
Yeah. And he comes in, he writes, absolutely not, but having good winter tires should be required.
Yes,
not all seasons, is what he says.
That's true. That's true. My brother, he basically manages a Bell Tire, and he will tell you there's a dramatic difference having good winter tires as opposed to having either all season or some bald ones. If you guys have bald tires out there, you need to go check yourself because you're going to kill somebody if not yourself. Don't be a dummy. Like, I know it's expensive. I get it. You gotta start stacking that money up to get those winter tires or to get some new ones because you can't drive around like that. It's definitely not safe.
So in coming weeks, we're going to talk about it. Your boy is inching ever so close to turning 40. And it's starting to hit me like, holy shit. Like, the 30s are the best time of your life.
Are they?
You wild out. Yeah, you learn about yourself. You get married. You cement your family. But now...
I like how that was the 30s for you.
Yeah.
That was my 20s.
Yeah. For me, my 20s were about going to school and setting things up and things like that. My 30s...
I was a hot mess through the teens.
Exactly.
And through the 20s.
I'm like, oh, man, I'm 40 now. And you start
Time
thinking...
30 hit, I figured some of it out.
Time's going to go by fast. In 10 years, I'm going to be 50. In 10 years, my daughter will be 17.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is going to happen this next decade? Is going to be huge. And I remember back in the day, I'd be like, I think about I was born in 79. I'm like, okay, I'll be 40 around 2020. That's like a million years away. Here we are, bro. And I'm starting to think about it. I'm like, holy shit, I'm getting old.
Have you figured out what you're going to do when she brings her first boyfriend home?
No, I'm not thinking about that kind of stuff.
Can I tell you what we need to do?
What we
When
need
I
to
say
do?
we, I mean me and you.
Stand there and just be like, no.
So you've seen Bad Boys, right?
Yeah.
The movie Bad Boys?
Yeah.
Remember when Martin Lawrence's daughter, boyfriend, whatever, shows up? I'm going to show up with a halter top on.
That's right.
All right? And I'm going to act super, super flaming.
Exactly.
And we'll have a gun.
Okay, we'll have some fun with it. I'm not ready for all that stuff yet. Oh, it started to happen.
You come out with the baby oil. You just be like, I got the baby oil, babe. And I'll be like, yeah. Now, what do you want? It'll be great.
So for those that don't know, I have a 7-year-old, and she's in the first grade, and already she started, I got a best friend. I'm like, oh, cute. Who is it? Spencer.
No.
I'm like, oh, hell no. I don't give a shit about Spencer. Fuck him.
Have you... I like how you just punked a 7-year-old.
Spencer.
Have you seen Spencer? Have you met Spencer?
She asked to have a play date with Spencer at the house. I'm like, hell no, it's not going to happen. So I'm like, you wait a couple of days and then you don't hear it again, because for one night it was like, Spencer, Spencer, Spencer. I'm like, Andrea, what are we doing here? I'm working a lot. Get this together. Tighten the ship. Tighten the ship.
Tighten the ship.
Spencer.
Why is she hanging out with boys? What's going on?
Exactly.
Oh, man. I hope I have a boy first. Whenever I have my first kid, it's going to be brutal if it's a girl. She's never leaving the bedroom.
Now, jumping right in, everybody's talking about what happened this past weekend in the NFL.
It's a great weekend of football.
I want to start with
what
this.
I didn't sleep through.
I want to ask you this. Are you on the bandwagon of those that say, you know what, the rules committee's got to do some things regarding penalties, regarding the review system, regarding overtime? I mean, obviously, people here locally are like, yeah, where was all the outrage when they picked up the flag, Detroit versus Dallas? We were ranting, raving, going, of course it would happen here in Detroit. Nowhere else would. They actually get the call right. Then the Dallas Cowboys are flipping out. You have Des Bryant with his helmet off, screaming. That should have been a penalty.
Running on the field.
And they're like, you know what? No, we're going to pick this up and we're going to discall the penalty. And we're like, what? What do you mean? How do you pick up a flag? Well, the games on Sunday were outrageous. They were quality. 2 games that go to overtime. When you look at it, though, many people are walking away from the contest going, you know what? Some things need to be tweaked. Me personally, I like it. I love the human element. I love the fact that, you know what? A whole fan base had to sit there and suffer for about 5 minutes going, wait a minute, all the slow-mo replays, the Saints fans are like flipping out. They're threatening lawsuits. They're like, how could this be happening? You guys not only missed a pass interference, you missed a helmet-to-helmet. We would have had an opportunity to win the game. They're totally kind of also absolving the Saints of some critical mistakes that they made, and so they haven't, built-in excuse, the Saints fans, for why they lost. But I look at it and I go, you know what? I like it the way it is. It's fine. You know what? There are going to be mistakes. These are humans. I don't want to get to the point. Now, we can debate baseball with the strike zone where you can still have an umpire there but have a robot call it. I don't want to get to the point where every single play that's questionable can be challenged. I just think that the way it was, human element, they came out right away and said, look, we made a mistake. Sorry. That's the way it is. And I'm okay with it. The Saints got screwed, but
it cost you a shot at the Super Bowl.
But here you look at it for those that are looking at it from that perspective. You know what? In overtime, the Saints won the coin toss, similar to the New England Patriots. The Patriots handled their business. What happened with the Saints? They forgot to block. Oops, they get their quarterback smashed. They turn the ball over to the Rams. The Rams handle their business. And so that's the nature of the beast, is that, you know what, mistakes happen. But what quality coaches do is it's built in. You say, look, we're going to face adversity. What do you do in the face of adversity? What did the Patriots do? They were down. They came back. In the face of adversity, they rise up. It's like they almost thrive in it. It's almost like we don't play our best until we see a little bit of adversity. Then we rise up. The Saints had an opportunity during the game not to make some mistakes. Obviously, many people are looking to some of the play calls, passing it late in the game when you could have wound down the clock. You look at it, you win the toss in overtime, and you have an opportunity to win the game. And so the Saints, even though they did get screwed, yes, nobody's going to debate that, they still have to move on. You can't just stop the game and go, oh, what was us? We got screwed. You got to move forward, and when you're given the chance, you got to take advantage of it. So in that situation, no remorse for me for the Saints fans. I don't care. Ha ha to you. We felt it as Lions fans. Now you feel it as Saints fans. You can cry till the cows come home. You got screwed, and you will not be participating in the Super Bowl. The NFC champ is the Los Angeles Rams, and that's the way it is. And I don't care at all about the Saints fans that are crying about a blown call. It happened.
We totally should have called Josh Katzenstein because he was covering the Lions, I think, when they got screwed by Dallas or in Dallas. While you make a lot of really good points, and I agree with a lot of what you said, the Saints had opportunities to win that game, but that call cost them a Super Bowl. It cost them a shot to go and play New Orleans or to play New England in the Super Bowl. The referees should not control the game this way. Now, I agree with you that you can't go around challenging everything, and I enjoy the human element just as much as you do. I think it's integral to the game, and I found while this game was going on, I enjoyed when they would go under the hood and look at plays. I thought it was interesting because it built suspense. It built drama. I think there has to be a system. The rules committee has to sit down and look at trying to figure out a way to implement challenges and limit them, but implement challenges for the coaches to be able to challenge plays like this. This was a huge play. If the referees get this call right, it's a brand new set of downs for the Saints. Their ball on the 9. Up until this point, the Rams could not stop the Saints. On this drive, the Rams could not stop the Saints at all. The Saints were going to go in and score a touchdown. If they weren't going to settle for a field goal, they were going to score a touchdown. And I can say that with 100% certainty because the Rams couldn't do anything. Roby Coleman blew up, who was it? Was it Smith or whoever? Blew up the wide receiver, number 11 for the Saints. Blew him up, and he went looking for a flag. He knew what he did. He was beat. He was beat bad, and he blew the guy up, and he turned looking for a flag. The moment he didn't get that flag, he celebrated like he just hit the lotto because he did. Now, the Saints had opportunities after that, couple opportunities. Like you said, in overtime, won the toss. Look at what the Patriots did. March down the field, score. That's all you got to do. It's all you have to do. Instead you turn the ball over. You throw an interception because you didn't block for your quarterback. Your quarterback throws a lame duck pass. But up until that point, it should never have even got to overtime. Saints were going to win that game. I think the rules committee needs to sit down, look at instituting maybe three challenge flags for penalties, okay? And you don't want to tie the game up. You don't want to extend it any more than it has to. But as a coach, you can challenge a penalty up to 3 times per game. Doesn't matter if they're all in the first half, doesn't matter if they're all in the second half. If you get that wrong, you are penalized a 15-yard penalty or a loss of downs. I think by doing that, it's going to force the coaches to really pick and choose what they want to throw that flag on.
I think it's going to happen, too, because of the nature of what happened and the severity. Now, people are calling the Super Bowl a game now that's going to be marred by an asterisk. Many people are not recognizing the Rams. They're upset because it was so egregious.
Let me ask you about this. Does it change the way you view the Rams? Because right now, the Rams are I dislike the Rams.
They're quality.
I don't want the Rams to win at all. I want the Patriots to win right now. And I would not have told you that last week. Last week, going into these games, I like the Rams, I like the Saints, I like the Patriots, I like the Chiefs. I didn't care. I just wanted good football. All I wanted was good football. I didn't care who won. I wanted the best teams to win, and I wanted to have a great Super Bowl. The games that I wanted to see the Saints versus the Chiefs. That's what I wanted to see.
That was the lowest on our poll on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. The worst rated thing that people wanted was the Rams and the Patriots.
Right.
That was the thing that nobody wanted. A lot of people liked the Saints and the Chiefs because of the young cats, the offenses. So it's surprising that this is what what came about. Well, obviously, if you listen to last week's Doc and Jock, I kind of called it, but it was a scenario
Go ahead,
which
pat yourself on the back.
I was.
Pat yourself
You saw.
on the back there, baby.
I called how it was going to go down too. Patrick Mahomes was going to have a chance late to do some things, and he did. I felt like the Saints were going to be competitive, but the Rams were going to run the ball down the throat. But I didn't think it was going to be with C.J. Anderson.
Right.
I thought it'd be with Todd Gurley. And he didn't show up.
Yeah.
So we were on the pulse of what was going on because obviously we watched a lot of football.
But after that blown call and after everything that took place, I'm now looking, because you always have to have a good guy and a bad guy, right? You always have to have a good guy and a bad guy. I'm looking at the Saints as the Rams as the bad guy here. Going into this Super Bowl, I'm looking at the Rams as the bad guy. When in your lifetime could you ever say that you're going to look at the New England Patriots as the good guy? Like, if this was Star Wars, like, usually the New England Patriots are the Death Star, and everybody's looking to blow up the Death Star and Darth Vader, right? No, not this Super Bowl. Not for me. Maybe for you, but not for me. Right now, I'm looking at the young Jedis. And when I say young Jedis, you know Belichick and Brady are old as dirt. Old as dirt. This is their 9th Super Bowl. 9, guys, 9. The only team that's even close, team, not guys or players, are the Steelers with 8. That's how good they've been during this run. How good they've been at this in this dynasty. 9 times they're playing for a Super Bowl, and they're not the bad guys. They're not the bad guys. The Rams are the bad guys to me in this because you benefited off of a BS call or non-call. You benefited off that. On top of that, there was so much chirping after that game. Like, you couldn't win with dignity. I like Marcus Peters. I think he's funny. I think he's a character. I think he's a little bit over the top. Marcus Peters out there running his mouth on the field. I don't care for Ndamukong Suh. He can go fly a kite. I do love Aaron Donald. I think Aaron Donald's great. All right, you've got Roby Coleman over there running his mouth.
Todd Gurley on Instagram with the greatest troll job of all
with
time.
the referees changing jerseys.
That was awesome.
What are we doing over here? Win with some class and win with some dignity. You guys benefited because the refs boned the Saints. What are you talking about? You act like you just won something. You were gifted something. Cool, your kicker's got a monster leg, right? Big Drew calls him Legatron because he kicked a 57-yard field goal and it went straight down the middle.
Greg the Leg.
Right, Greg. I like that better. Greg the Leg.
That's what they call him.
I like that. He's a savage. Look, you didn't win shit. You were gifted it. You were gifted it. Come on, man.
What is your response to the Saints fans? You got some attorneys that have filed a class action lawsuit claiming distress. You got Gail Benson sending a letter to the NFL. Some people are kind of looking through the rule book going that Roger Goodell could technically enforce a rule that says that you can go back.
Let's stop right
here.
He
can actually say teams go back on the field at the same spot and get it right and replay it. I'm like, wow, they actually have that rule. They should get rid of that.
Let's stop right here, okay? Because my mom was talking to me about this last night. She was like,
they should go back and change it.
She was like, well, do you think that they should? Like, what's your opinion on this? And I'm like, no. It's all decided on the field. You can't go back and you can't retroactive and change scores. You can't do it because the moment you start doing that, it becomes a slippery slope.
Yeah.
It becomes real slippery because now you're going to go looking for different calls, different things that happened in the middle of a game. So you can point to those things and say, look, we should have won this game. Now you've got lawyers filing lawsuits. It's going to get thrown out. This isn't going to stand up in court. The NFL on its own is its own entity. It's a business, guys. It's a business. And they're not doing anything to harm the public. Cool, your team lost. Grow up. It's a sporting event. Grow up. You know what? I'm sure your girls play soccer, right? They lose games. You're not going to go file a lawsuit because they lost a game, are you? If you do, you're an idiot. You just grow up. It's okay, all right? So whoever this attorney is and his cronies, idiots. Gail Benson, I like Gail Benson's letter. I like where she's at with this because what she's doing, she's rallying her fan base, right? Her fan base just suffered one of the worst losses in their history. Mind you, this is the New Orleans Saints. This is a team where regularly fans would show up to games with paper bags on their head. They were embarrassed to be Saints fans. Drew Brees goes there. Hurricane Katrina happens. Next thing you know, the Saints are somebody. Saints are crushing it. Saints are one of those teams where you look at and you're like, yeah, these are one of the elite teams in the NFL. These are one of the best teams in the NFL right now. The way they do things, the way they get things done, the Saints are awesome. Her team just suffered a monster blow. She's trying to rally her fan base. She's trying to rally her team. I like that. I wish Martha would do stuff like that. How many times have you as a Lions fan been like, could somebody please stand up for us? Somebody, anybody, I don't care who it is. Somebody please stand up for us and fight for us. How many times are we going to take it in the butt? No Vaseline. How long are we going to sit there and be forced to endure and bear this? This is an owner who says this isn't going to happen again, not on my watch. And she is standing up for her fan base, standing up for her organization, standing up for her players. I love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's great.
So obviously, Detroit fans can relate to seeing a bad call in a playoff game. 52%, though, felt like that call in the Saints game was worse than the Lions having a call and then having the flag picked up.
What do you think about that?
I think ours was worse. I think
Why?
the Lions was worse because they actually got it right.
Right.
They actually called it. It would have been equivalent to, in the Saints game, them throwing the flag, and then you would have the Rams getting all upset, going, what's going on? Their arms all waving in the air like they tend to do sometimes, and then going, you know what? We're just going to pick it up, because since then, I don't think you and I have ever seen a play where they actually throw down a flag, call a penalty, and then say, you know what? Nah. It's not a penalty, and just pick it up when it's so egregious, especially now in the age of offense where you're not allowed to touch the person after 5 yards. So I think the Lions is obviously more egregious, but I mean, many people I think poo-poo it because of the fact of the Lions lore, and we're going to talk more about that when we talk about Tom Brady. Many people will just say, you know what? The Lions would have screwed it anyway. They would have gotten down the field and missed a field goal, or Stafford would have threw a pick. And so they use the Lions' history of having an organization that totally is irrelevant to justify saying that the Saints actually was a little bit worse. But I say this, the Lions was a lot worse in that the call was correct and they picked up a flag. I've never heard of that, just solely based on players running on the field, acting a fool on the road. I think it was probably one of the worst calls in the history of the NFL.
While I think you're spot on with a lot of what you said, okay? Just the magnitude and everything that unfolded after the flag was thrown. This is where the thing with the Lions, the situation with the Lions and the Cowboys really gets magnified, is everything that took place after the flag was thrown. Now, I think the Saints was worse just because of the sheer magnitude of what that call did and what that call meant. This was for the opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. The Lions took place during a wild card game. It was for the right to go on to play another game so you could get to the point so you could play for the Super Bowl. So the stakes weren't as high. On top of it, this was so blatant. Right? The Lions was pretty blatant, but this was super, super blatant. That's why I think the Saints getting robbed is a little bit more impactful. And it's close. It's so close, guys. It is so close. I think the Saints getting robbed is a little bit more impactful, and I think hurts just a little bit more than what happens with the Lions. Now, the Lions was interesting because you could have did a soap opera. You could have did a 30 for 30. You could have really broke that down because, like you said, the flag gets thrown, right? It's pass interference. We all agree. The linebacker never turned his head around to try to spot the ball. So by the definition of the rule, it's pass interference. The flag gets thrown. Flag gets picked up. In between all of that, Des Bryant comes on the field without a helmet, starts screaming. You then find out that, what's his nuts? The guy with the greaseback hair who's the rules guy. I don't remember his name. Anyways, he does rules now for...
Dean Blandino.
Yes, thank you, Dean Blandino. Next thing you know, you find out Dean Blandino is partying on the bus with Dallas's... I don't think it was with Jerry Jones, but it was like it was Jerry Jones' son. So like the vice president of operations for the Cowboys. And you're just like, wait, what the hell? All of a sudden, this feels like it's a monster conspiracy against the Lions. In a matter of moments, it felt like it was a gigantic conspiracy to hold the Lions back. And at no point did you ever hear Martha pipe up. Not like Gail Benson did. Nope, never once. But all of us fans were like, hey, can somebody please stand up for us? How many times are we going to let this happen to us? How many times? But it did feel like a monster conspiracy to prevent the Lions from winning that game. I just think the sheer magnitude of what took place and what was at stake for the New Orleans Saints makes their situation that much more worse.
Yeah, wow, I can't believe it. Now, I just want to give a couple minutes because we have to the Patriots and the Chiefs. Remember what we said?
Great game. Great game.
Remember what Caller John said to Big Drew and Jim?
There were bad no calls there too, by the way.
Remember what Caller John said to Big Drew and Jim. Coaching is so important. Remember,
I love Caller John.
it's something where Andy Reid,
He loves Strohs, by the way.
Andy Reid does himself no favors. I think he's a guy that in his time coaching has not utilized timeouts properly. I think he has not evolved.
His defense was gassed.
Obviously, in overtime, there was nothing left. But you still had opportunities, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. Yeah. And the Patriots were able to convert 3 times with Edelman over the middle. You'd think that they would figure out how to cover that, but they just weren't able to. But in the end, many people are pointing to Andy Reid, and sometimes there are coaches that sometimes are going to have their players line up in the neutral zone when you have an interception to win the game. It was just when that play happened, when D Ford lines up in the neutral zone and the Kansas City Chiefs intercept the Patriots and they go in, they could have won the game right there, game over. You just say to yourself, of course it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That's what happens to Andy Reid teams, is that they're going to find their way to lose in the most critical moments. And so while that all took place, I wasn't surprised. But many people are hypercritical of Andy Reid, saying, look, you know what? You didn't take timeouts at the end of the game properly. You could have maybe, because if you remember, the Chiefs were able to run one play with about maybe 20 seconds left, took about maybe 5-6 seconds off. If you had used timeouts properly, you might have had 35 seconds to maybe take 2 stabs into the end zone. You have the ball last. And so I think when we were evaluating it, we said, Patrick Mahomes, he did his job. Mm-hmm. They struggled early, but Patrick Mahomes lived up to the hype. He's a superstar. It's just unfortunately that you play for an organization and now a coach that is just a step below elite. He's amazing. I would love for the Lions, to figure out maybe in the past to have brought Andy Reid here. He could have been the guy to get us to the postseason. Then you bring in the closer. That would have been an amazing transition. But now the Lions are left with, I think, a retread from the Patriots. I mean, look, their defense looked awesome. They stepped up. They play well. And you know what? The Patriots shut everybody up. I mean, look at that roster. You look up and down the Patriots roster. That's not a Super Bowl roster.
It's not.
It's coaching.
Yes.
It's elite coaching, and that's what it can do for you.
When we go to talk about Tom Brady, I have a couple things I want to throw in about what the Patriots do. I want to save those, though, for our final segment.
So I just have to.
But you're spot on.
I just have to believe that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, that marriage can do anything. And I think those that were willing to discount what they were going to do this year, shame on you, because until their run will end when they want it to end. And I don't care even if they lose. Look, they took that roster to the Super Bowl. Yep. All props to the Patriots. It's an amazing organization.
3 times in a row, they're going to play for the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. 9 times they have played for a Super Bowl. Let that sink in, guys. Like, the Detroit Lions don't even have 9 playoff wins in their history.
And with Belichick being an assistant, I think it's 12 overall in his time as an assistant, head coach.
Crazy.
Yeah.
They've been so good.
Because of the time he worked with the Giants.
But you're absolutely right. Andy Reid did his team no favors. He hurt them down the stretch. He really did. That defense was gassed. They were huffing and puffing and just trying to suck up as much air as possible. And Tom Brady's cool as a cucumber. Comes up to the line, hike, handoff, hike, little dump pass, hike, going over the middle to Edelman, picking up yards, just cutting you up. He was just slicing and dicing, and there was nothing they could do. Call a timeout, stall some of that momentum, get your defense a little bit of wind, and set something up to help your team. When you have them 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, you need to force them to turn the ball over on downs, and yet you don't put your defense in a position to win?
And the credit has to go to the Patriots' offensive line. Did not give up a sack, and they were just able to run the ball at will. Mm-hmm. In a game where people kind of knew that, you know what, if you line up and stop the run, you have a chance maybe to, make the Patriots one-dimensional. But they were able to run the ball with Sony Michel down the throat of the Chiefs, and that's what happened. Yeah. And the Patriots are there again, and in the coming week, we'll look at it. Adam and I will do our research, and next week, we'll give our breakdown to see what happens. I think it's going to be an epic game, similar to what happened last year. It could be close. I mean, I have no clue. I think most people are going to pick the Patriots. I mean, they opened as an underdog, and right away, all the money was bet on the Patriots, and now they're a favorite again. They're now, I think, they're laying 2.5. And they opened as an underdog. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So
there's so much talent there, and they do such a good job taking their pieces and putting their pieces in a spot to help win games.
Unreal.
It's nuts.
It's unreal. And then look, you see, Rob Gronkowski with some time off, resurgence.
Yeah.
I think this week off is going to help them.
I mean,
That's why to make it great.
We were making jokes that he looked like he was the Tin Man and somebody needed to oil him up. And then he goes out there and he has a very good game. Probably the most impactful play of that game. So it just absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
We're going to take our first time out. We're going to come back. We're going to review Michigan State hoops. I think they're trending in different directions, but great win for Michigan on Tuesday night. Coming back, Matthews hits the last-second shot, controversial, but Michigan escapes. They did have a tough loss on the road versus Wisconsin. Some say it was a tough loss. Some say it was a loss that maybe they should not have suffered. But I do think that playing in the Big Ten obviously is super tough, and you have now Michigan State who's playing unbelievably to start the Big Ten season. We'll check in with the college hoops teams next, and then we'll finish off the podcast looking at the Detroit Lions who made some news in the last 10 days. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
But let me talk something. Let me let y'all know. I want to thank the whole hood who came out here. I love y'all. West Side.
Doc here for Motor City Pawn Brokers, one of the great sponsors of the network. The Motor City Pawn Brokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new, and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. Look, it's not the same as it was 10 years ago where you have to be all embarrassed to walk into a pawn shop. Go into one of the locations. You'll see it's totally clean. So go check it out. If you have any questions, go check out MotorCityPawnBrokers.com, one of the biggest and finest pawn shops in the entire state of Michigan. MotorCityPawnBrokers.com.
I love that song.
Yes, it's great.
I know I tell you every time, every week you play it, I tell you.
Because Michigan lost to Wisconsin. It was interesting, too, because...
Brutal loss.
Yeah, Brzdakis had come out and said, look, we want to play Duke. We're great.
I know, old boy just chirping. Like, what?
At the wrong time, they played worse.
Here's the thing, too. He was nowhere to be found in that game.
Exactly.
He was nowhere. He hasn't been able to be spotted in weeks. Now, he had a very good game against Minnesota.
Yes.
But that game was way too close for comfort.
But really, I think if you expected Michigan to go undefeated in the Big Ten, especially on the road, it was going to be something where you were going to be set up to be let down.
Look, I thought that they were going to lose this upcoming game to Indiana. I thought Indiana was going to be a team that was going to take them to the max. I didn't think they'd lose to Wisconsin. Now, I know they struggle playing against Wisconsin in Wisconsin, but that game, I think what you've seen in that game, if you're a Michigan fan, you have things to be worried about because I think they were slightly exposed. This team leans so heavily on guys like Jordan Poole, Charles Matthews, and Brzdakis that it becomes really difficult when those three guys aren't on and they're not scoring. There's only so much Xavier Simpson can do. His job is mainly to be the facilitator, make some key shots at key times. Teskey played out of his mind in that game on Saturday. Played just a crazy game. He was the only guy who played up. He was the only guy who looked hungry, was the only guy who looked like he wanted it. But that team relies so heavily on those three guys to score that if one of them's off or if all of them are off, you're going to take an L. And you've seen it in that game against Wisconsin.
And you guys always have to remember that anytime your team is predicated on mostly shooting and having an outside jump shooting team, there are going to be stretches where the shots don't fall.
Yep.
I mean, if you actually just go out there, dribble a basketball, and try to shoot it and see how close you are at hitting it. It's not easy.
Take 25 shots.
It's
take 25
not
shots
easy.
and count how many of those 25 shots you make uncontested.
And you got to remember, there are other teams in the Big Ten that are playing defense that have, to try to do zone or try to take away one of your elite shooters and things like that. And remember, on the road, it's so hard to just go on the road and play well because teams get up for you now. Michigan's is being definitely all the film on them. All the teams are looking at, what they're doing and trying to stop them. And remember, when you're a team that just comes off of losing in the national title game, you're getting the team's best.
Yep.
Everyone wants to rush on the court when they beat you. And so for Michigan to start, 18-0 or whatever it was, that is an elite accomplishment, especially knowing that teams are going to throw their best at you. So I think it's great that Michigan lost because it gives John Beilein a chance to correct some things. And sometimes shooting teams are going to struggle. So it's no big deal. I think it's great to have this happen now as opposed to having it happen around the time of early March when it's the Big Ten title situation, when you're going into the NCAA tournament. You don't want to be going ice cold when you're playing in the big time. So get your struggles out January, February, get all the kinks out, learn as much as you can about the team. And the goal is to be peaking around the time of the NCAA tournament. And I think that's what Tom Izzo and John Beilein do, is they both set up their teams to win. And you hope that both coaches make quality decisions in terms of their rotations and things like that, because that'll be the critical key to both these teams. Is sometimes if a player's struggling, hey, you might need a Livers, you might need a Poole, you might need Brisdakis, you might need somebody else to step up. And, similar to Michigan State, they may need to, because Tom Izzo is lamenting day in and day out that, hey, Cassius Winston's playing a lot of minutes and we got to get him some rest. You got Foster Loyer, but he hasn't kind of picked up the offense with the level of efficiency that Tom Izzo would want. So Cassius could wear out by the end of the year, but it's great now because both teams' fan bases are chirping. You have Simpson versus Cassius Winston. You got Izzo versus Beilein.
Don't you love this? Isn't this what you always wanted?
It's the best. I love when you throw out a tweet and say, just based on the eye test, Cassius Winston's a little bit better. And I think he is.
He is.
Not by a lot, but I do think that right now his offense is good and he's doing the best that he can, and especially with, the biggest jump that he made from now being a freshman to a sophomore is he's being a leader. He's playing some defense. And obviously he's not as good as Simpson in terms of the defensive side, but I think that offensively, Cassius Winston at any given moment can drop 25 on you. It's just, I think Tom Izzo's unleashing him a little bit, and I think it's great to see Cassius Winston do what he's doing.
I find Michigan fans who have the Michigan blinders on, it's a Michigan guy, it's a Michigan player, it's got to be Xavier Simpson. Xavier Simpson's so much better. Like, hold on a second.
Well, they did see 2 games where he did kind of shut down Cassius last year.
I get it.
That's what they're going off of.
I get it. It's a new year. It's a brand new year, and Tom Izzo is letting him play.
Yeah.
He's letting him play. He took the reins off of him and was like, here, go ahead. Go do what you got to do. And you're seeing Cassius Winston grow up. You're seeing him take over this team. That's now his team. If you had any question about who's the leader of this team, you know now. And it's Cassius Winston. He is the best player in the Big Ten right now. He is. If you're a Michigan fan and you don't agree with me, tell me why. Tell me why. Who? Who is it on Michigan that's so damn good? If I asked you who's the best player on Michigan, I'm going to get 9 different people telling me 9 different answers. Do you know why? Because they're a very good team. They're a collective team.
Yeah.
They're a unit, right? No, right now, Cassius Winston is the straw that stirs the drink that is Michigan State. He is playing like a stud right now. On top of all that, Langford's out there. And is he playing? He's not playing right now. Tom Izzo says he's going to play, but then he's not going to play. And then he's in the boot, and then he's not in the boot. We have no idea what's going on with Langford. You know what I'm saying? Look, right now, Cassius Winston has taken over control of this team. It's his squad. He is the best player in the Big Ten. If you are a Michigan fan, if you're a Michigan State fan, you love this. You love this. Forever the call was CTG, closing the gap. Closing the gap. How far is Michigan away from contending with Michigan State? There's no gap, guys. There's no gap. You're looking at the 2 best teams in the Big Ten right now. There is no gap. I can't wait for these guys to face off.
It's going to be fun.
The only thing that makes me upset is they play each other so close.
Yeah.
So close. Like, roughly, they play each other twice in about
February
a week
24th, a month away still.
Yeah. In like a week span, they're going to play each other twice. Maybe like 10 days, 14 days.
10 days apart, yeah.
It's absolutely bonkers why that's going to happen, but it is what it is. There is no gap, guys. These are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten right now. They're going to beat each other up. I love this.
Yes.
I love this. I think it's great. And it's going to be awesome to see what Xavier Simpson does to Cassius Winston, if he can shut him down or if Cassius can rise above it and keep playing like he's playing out of his mind.
I think, like I said, similar to what James Hawkins said, I think it's going to be a split. I think that both games are going to be won by the teams that play at home, and I think unfortunately the first game is at Chrysler, so maybe if Michigan State can come in there and shut everybody up and play really well, then you have an opportunity. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Michigan's going to be riled up for the contest. They'll be playing well. But like I said, it's hard to predict a month out with injuries and things like that, how the teams are playing. But as is, yeah, I agree. Cassius Winston is the MVP of the Big Ten. Is Michigan State the best team in the Big Ten? I would say no. I would say that Michigan just holds that slight edge because of the fact they have more guys that can do it. Now, Michigan State, they have maybe better top-end talent. Like, I think Cassius Winston can evolve in 2 years to be a really great player. Nick Ward likely is on the track to go to the NBA, but dude can establish an inside presence, and I think McQuaid can hit the outside shot, and you have other guys that can contribute on the defensive end. So I don't think collectively Michigan State is better than Michigan, but they're right up there. They can play with anybody, and they play really a great brand of basketball. It's a Tom Izzo team. It's going to be rugged. They're going to have to rebound. They're going to have to play defense as well. But here's the problem. In any sport, and especially now in basketball, when Michigan State struggles, they struggle with turnovers. They struggle with 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute, gaps where they don't score. And if Michigan, remember, what has everybody started to talk about now in terms of Michigan's resurgence? They play defense. And so if they can target and lock down Cassius, sure, they'll just say, look, we'll target Cassius, maybe double him here and there, play a little bit of zone, or we'll limit his contribution. He gets 18 instead of 30. You know what? You're going to have McQuaid and Nick Ward beat you. I think they'll be okay with that, letting them shoot a couple more shots. And then Michigan, if they're shooting hot, they can get up to a 10, 12-point lead just like that. So that's the problem with Michigan State is they need that one more offensive threat, one more guy that can create his own shot that can help keep up with the likes of Michigan because they got guys that can just shoot the three lights out. And if they get hot, they're going to blow Michigan State out.
See, I think the thing that separates these two teams is the depth. Michigan State has way more depth than Michigan does. Michigan has no problem rolling out 5, 6 guys, maybe playing a 7th. But Michigan State can go 9 deep if they wanted to, 10 deep. Foul trouble sets in, or you need a guy to come off a bench and put a big bucket in. Really and truly, Michigan has livers, and it's livers. Like, who else are you going to go to? Who else are you, if you're a Michigan fan, tell me who else are you confident in that you can just insert into a ball game when you know you need a basket, and he's going to go get it for you. It's Isaiah Livers, and that's it. That's all you have. Now, Michigan State's totally different. They can just keep rolling dudes out there, flipping them in, flipping them out, flipping them in, flipping them out. Michigan State is so much more deep, and I think that's what gives them the edge over Michigan. But like you said, Michigan plays a very good brand of defense, and a very good style. And if their shots are falling, it becomes really hard for a team like Michigan State to catch up, especially if Michigan is forcing turnovers.
Now, both squads are going to play some contests on the road, so it'll definitely, in the next 10 days, pay attention to these squads because when you go on the road, it kind of definitely gives you more of a glimpse as to what they really are. So I can't wait to see how this evolves in the coming weeks. And like I said, they're the two teams right now that are worth watching. Anytime they're on, find the schedule, easy accessibility to watch Michigan and Michigan State hoops, you're going to want to watch because they're playing well. Our best chances as Detroit sports fans to have any kind of success in championships are the college teams locally. So definitely take advantage of it because the pro teams, long way to go.
Yeah,
all
pro
right.
teams are brutal.
One final timeout. We got to talk about the Detroit Lions.
We got to talk about a pro team.
Yes, we got to talk about the Lions. They've hired, finally, their offensive coordinator, and we're going to talk about what would have happened. We're going to go down the road of memory lane. What would have happened because we came across an article where Tom Brady discussed at the Combine, at the Senior Bowl, kind of what he wanted. And it was very interesting what he had said. And again, when you get a chance to look down memory lane, things could have been differently if the Detroit Lions had just given Tom Brady's name, and wrote it down and drafted him. They had 5 chances to do it. They didn't take advantage. What would have happened had they taken advantage and actually drafted Tom Brady? We'll talk about that as well as reacting to the hiring of Darrell Bevell next. I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic.com. When Adam and I first started this project back in September of 2013, we were looking for a great place to host all of our recorded audio. Thank goodness we found Podomatic. Why do we use Podomatic? Well, when we have great sports debates, great interviews, great recorded content, we want to upload it quickly so that all of our followers and supporters and listeners across the country and even overseas can find our content. Imagine if we had a great interview and we promote it and then you push the button and nothing happens. That can happen. Host sites can crash. You might not be able to access our content. And that's how we grew this thing, was having reliable content that is on demand. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can go to DetroitSportsPodcast.com and you can find our content. So if you're looking to start a brand new project, a brand new podcast, Adam, Jason, Vito, Steve, all the new hosts are going to recommend one host site and one host site alone, Podomatic.com. I love how last week we were talking about, are the Lions ever going to hire an OC? And then they went out and they hired an offensive coordinator named Darrell Bevell, and everybody reacted and was like, wait a minute, wasn't that the coach that called one of the most controversial offensive plays in the history of the Super Bowl instead of turning it around and handing it off? Now, there's a question as to whether Darrell did call that play that got intercepted by the Patriots and assisted Patricia to win the Super Bowl.
He called it.
You think he called it?
He called it. Pete Carroll laid on the sword for him. Come on now.
Okay.
He called it. There's no.
That's the guy.
There's no. Yeah, there's no. Oh, did he call that? Did he not? No, he called that. Come on now.
The craziness about that hire is this guy was not employed anywhere, so he could have been hired a lot faster.
Yes.
But I think
nobody wanted him.
Look, in the end, he's got experience. Now you got two coaches that have won the Super Bowl. Now they've not done it as head coaches, but I do think bringing this guy to the room can change some things up. But again, in typical Detroit Lions fashion, you now are going to turn Stafford into a game manager.
Can you do me a favor real quick?
Yeah.
Next time you mention the room, can you be like, the room?
The room.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. Put your pinky up too when you say it.
Yeah, exactly.
The room.
Exactly. And so you bring him in, and now you realize, okay, he had Russell Wilson. He had an opportunity to call plays for a guy that could scramble, extend plays. What are they going to do with Matthew Stafford? In essence, I really believe Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia believe they're going to establish an offense where if they need to run the ball 50 times, they're going to do it. If they need Stafford to throw the ball 20 times or 30 times to take the lead, they're going to do it. I go, there's only one Patriots. There's only one organization that can adapt like that, and that's the New England Patriots. Darrell Bevell, it's great. It's not sexy, but it's professional. It's fine. I just don't think that a guy like Stafford is going to be utilized properly with that kind of offense. Well, what were we all clamoring for? A sexy offense, something that can be revved up a little bit. Darrell Bevell just kind of speaks to me like turn around, hand it off, where now the shift is going to be. In essence, all the eyes were on Stafford. I think now, seriously, all the eyes need to be on Kerryon Johnson, whoever's number 2 is going to be. And I think that why are you paying a quarterback that much money when you've now taken the focus off of him? You're paying a $27 million guy to hand the ball off, in essence. And I don't think that with Stafford, okay, and the way this offense is going to be laid out, he needs to be in rhythm. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can hand the ball off 20 times and then go, you know what, Stafford, in the fourth quarter, we're going to need you to light it up.
Go ahead, go throw that ball.
Go throw that ball now. He's got to be in rhythm. You got to, what do we see him do well? The 2-minute offense when he's just kind of, throwing the ball all over the place. I don't know if Darrell Bevell's offense is going to be unique enough and creative enough to utilize Stafford's talent as is. If I'm Stafford, I'm going, man, I went from Linehan to Jim Bob Cooter to Darrell Bevell. What am I fucking doing here? Mm-hmm. I think when you look at that hire, I don't think that impresses Matthew Stafford.
No.
That's got to piss him off, right?
It would make me mad. Look, the way I see this hire playing out, and I think the reason why this guy was brought in, I don't know if Matt Stafford's going to be here in 2 years.
You think this is the beginning of the end?
Yes. Because why do you go out and grab an offensive coordinator whose entire basis underneath Pete Carroll, the things he most recently did, right? His most recent time as an offensive coordinator was essentially establishing the run, handing the ball off, and having a dynamic run game.
But when he did call passing plays, they were efficient. They were good.
Yeah.
They were okay in terms of...
How many times did Russell Wilson really throw the ball? Like 12 times a game? 14 times a game? You're looking at a quarterback in Matt Stafford who generally goes out there and throws anywhere from 27 pass attempts to 45. All right? And he lights it up down the field. This guy runs a dink and dunk offense. Okay? It does nothing to help accentuate what Matt Stafford does. So I think this team, they realize what they have and what they need. Remember how you were talking about how do you get to the Super Bowl? How do you build that team, right? How do we go there? What do we have to do? You need a good quarterback on the cheap, right? That's what you said. That's what you've been preaching on Twitter for months
Yeah, because
now.
when you pay a quarterback, it doesn't mean you can't build a team. It just means that you're going to bleed talent left and right in terms of paying that second cornerback, paying that second receiver. Look, Golden Tate's gone. And that's just because of Stafford.
Exactly. So I think Matt Stafford, once that contract and that dead money becomes palpable, where you can actually handle.
Is deadline clock ticking?
I think so.
Clock's ticking.
This is the way I'm reading this, right? We're going to build a team that can run the ball effectively, can be efficient with the pass game. We don't necessarily need a quarterback to go out there and put huge numbers up. We need a quarterback to be responsible with the ball and make timely passes to the right guy when needed.
See, I don't know if this fan base will tolerate that, because I think the talk has been, and the speculation is, if this doesn't work, Patricia, Stafford, Quinn broomed out all at once. And that would indicate Darrell Bevell will be gone with them.
I agree with you there. And I think they're all attached at the hip for now.
But do you see Stafford accepting that role, maybe being that guy? Unfortunately, they paid him the money, just being the guy that, goes for 16 of 21 for 180 yards and a touchdown and manages the game. Do you turn him essentially into Trent Dilfer? And when you see Trent Dilfer, you see Matthew Stafford. Do you see basically...
Could he be a better Trent Dilfer?
I'm saying, is that what they're trying to build? Are they trying to build the Ravens and the Seahawks?
I don't know.
As opposed to the Rams and the Saints?
Honestly, I have no idea what the hell they're trying to do. I really don't. I mean...
It doesn't sound right to put Stafford in a Flacco and a Dilfer class.
If you're a football fan, you watch what's going on. You watched last week, right?
You saw Mahomes and Jared Goff throwing the ball.
You've seen dynamic offenses that pass the ball. And whether or not they're bubble screens or their passes out to running backs, you've seen dynamic offenses with dynamic pass games and very, very good run games. Darrell Bevell doesn't scream dynamic pass game to me.
Right.
He really doesn't. He screams very good run game. Yeah. Very good run game. We're going to run the ball a shit ton. All right, so Kerryon Johnson, hopefully you can stay healthy. Hopefully you can. I mean, you had trouble doing it in Auburn, and you had trouble doing it your first season here in the NFL, so hopefully you can stay healthy.
Exactly.
You now need to go out and get a second running back. You realize this, right?
Yeah.
You just created a need. This is a team that doesn't have a ton of needs, doesn't have a ton of needs at running back. You just now created another need at running back. You have a ton of needs on the defensive line. You have a ton of needs in that defense, period, because you need a second corner. You have a ton of needs along that offensive line. You just created another need because you have a running back who might not be able to make it through the season.
And you need a tight end because obviously they had Jimmy Graham. Now, I just think that as Lions fans, we might be asking for too much because not only do we want to win football games, we want to win like 41-17. I think the Lions will be happy winning 21-17. Period. And end of story.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be sexy. It's going to be a grind. Remember, Seattle didn't blow too many teams out.
No.
It was a grind and things like that. So get ready for bumpy ride.
Do you find it funny that when Darrell Bevell was the offensive coordinator, that Seattle Seahawks team usually crept into the playoffs somewhere right around 9-7,
Yeah, exactly.
10-6.
Exactly.
I think maybe they had a season there. I'm not 100% sure. I have to go back and double check. But I think like 8-8, and they got in the playoffs. Do you remember what that Seattle Seahawks calling card was? It was good defense, ball control, and running it a ton. So you remember when Bob Quinn came out and was like, "Hey, 9-7 is not good enough."
Right.
You look like you're trending towards a 9-7 team. You do realize that, right? Like there's been so much doublespeak, and Bob Quinn has talked himself into so many corners. It's absolutely bananas right now.
What do you
This
mean?
looks like a 9-7 football team all day long. If they're good enough, and mind you, you're in a division right now with a Chicago Bears team that looks like it's going to take a step forward next year, right? They have a very young quarterback who has shown promise at times. I'm not a huge fan of Trubisky, but he has shown promise at times. On top of that, there's talks that Matt Nagy, mind you, the offensive coordinator who knew exactly how to use Kareem Hunt, might go out there and grab Kareem Hunt. Like, do you realize this? Nuts. On top of all that, you still have arguably one of the best, if not number 1B quarterback in the league with Aaron Rodgers, and you have a very good Minnesota team where things just kind of fell apart for him this season.
Do you think they upgraded at special teams coach by adding former CMU head coach John Bonamego?
Bro, if we had some sound effects where it was like, wah, 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 yeah, no, I'd be playing.
More of the same?
What are we doing here?
No.
This guy. So, okay, you take a guy who sucked at coaching at Central, okay? He's a total boob. You bring him back to Lions because he already had a stint here. You're going to make him your special teams coordinator. The only thing I need from John Bonamego right now is to make sure that this special teams unit does not have a bajillion
Mistakes.
penalties.
Yes.
Because this special teams unit was like one of the most penalized for the first 8 games of the season.
Exactly.
And then it didn't get much better after that.
Don't hurt the team.
Yeah.
Please don't hurt the team.
I'm not expecting anything dynamic from the Lions special teams. I'm not really expecting anything dynamic from this Lions team at all. Does anything that they've done scream dynamic to you?
No.
Like offensively, we go out there and you get Darrell Bevell. Not dynamic. All right. Defensively, anything about what Patricia does, super dynamic. Bend but don't break, right? That's what it is. Nothing dynamic here. Now you go get John Bonamego for your special teams. It makes me laugh because he sucked at Central. He sucked so bad. And then you look at what he did when he was a Lions special teams coordinator before. It wasn't very good. Like, he wasn't great at all.
One final thought,
Nothing
because
dynamic.
I looked on Twitter last week, and I saw, because right now on the calendar, it's the Senior Bowl, and the Combine is just around the corner. And so Tom Brady, one of the great writers in town, kind of looked up some of her articles and things like that, and she kind of noted, and she said, oh, wow, back around the time of the Senior Bowl and the Combine back in 2000, Tom Brady had said that, you know what? He was asked, like, hey, coming out, what's your expectation for the draft? Where do you want to end up? He's like, look, wherever I end up, I don't need the whole NFL to love me. I just need one team to draft me. And it would be great. Maybe, being a hometown guy, I can having played for Michigan, I could maybe be even drafted by the Lions. And it was so alarming to see that in the paper that, you know what? He would have loved to have come here. And I do think that part of the lore of Tom Brady was the fact that on draft day he was drafted 199th or so. I think part of what made him so unbelievable is the fact that he's got a chip on his shoulder, that he feels disrespected day in, day out. Even now, you got national media calling him out, saying he's done. And he's putting up posts on Instagram saying, we ain't going anywhere. He's, flexing and calling himself the baddest motherfucker on earth. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
He's a Banff, dude.
He's a bad man, and a guy that could play till 45 and could legitimately have 6, 7 Super Bowls and could really be redefining what the quarterback position looks like. So obviously you have to ask, and you have to really take a serious look at this question. If Tom Brady was drafted by the Detroit Lions, could he, as a quarterback alone, elevate an entire franchise with Matt Millen? Could he have elevated this franchise to be in the postseason and have Super Bowl success? And I'm going to say yeah. Because when you watch a guy like that, if he would have been drafted 195th by the Detroit Lions, if he would have been drafted 195th in the 6th round by the Lions, I think he would have come in and he would have transformed the organization. He would have won a Super Bowl for Detroit. Because you can't, in one breath, say he's the greatest quarterback of all time and then say, you know what? No, it's all coaching. He would have come here. He would have did this with many of the organizations, even the Detroit Lions. And I think one of the worst decisions that they made, and one of the worst decisions every organization has made in the National Football League, was turning their back on this guy. This guy is not just showing up here and doing his thing because of coaching. Yes, partly due to it. He's got one of the greatest coaches of all time, but the dude is diligent, understands that offense, has mastered the position of quarterback. I think he would have done it here in Detroit, and he would have turned the franchise around. And I really regret that Tom Brady, we didn't get a chance to see him play for the Detroit Lions. I really do seriously believe if Tom Brady was a Detroit Lion, he would have maybe had 2 Super Bowls. Not 5, maybe 2.
Remember when I told you, like, they're Star Wars and they're the Jedi? Yeah. Like, they're elite Jedi.
I give them that much credit.
They're awesome. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe you would have won a Super Bowl if he was your quarterback here. I don't think he would be as great as he is. I don't think there would be this lore and this mystique about TB12.
How dare you?
Right. I'm going to tell you why, Brian. I'm going to tell you why. All right? There is something special and unique about what New England does. Okay?
His name is Tom Brady.
No, Tom Brady's a part of it. All right? Tom Brady's a major part of it. Don't get it twisted. He is the greatest quarterback of all time. He is. I love Joe Montana. I said John Montana. I love Joe Montana. You better edit that out. I love Joe Montana, all right? Joe Montana was my favorite quarterback when I was a kid growing up. That was Tom Brady's favorite quarterback when he was a kid growing up. He's better than Tom. He's better than Joe Montana. He's way better. He's better than any quarterback you could ever think of. It doesn't matter who it is. He's better. You're right. He mastered the quarterback position. But there is a reason why that team is so good. There is a reason why he's been able to excel and take guys who are, as you said earlier, very average. What they do in New England when they draft very specific. They have a very short list of guys that they target. And the reason is they go for fit. They go for guys who will excel in their scheme. It is all scheme. It is nothing but scheme. It is guys who will fit in that locker room. It's weird, man. It is really, really weird. They're not going out there drafting the best player. They're going out there drafting the guy who's going to work the best for what they need to do and what they need to accomplish. And you know what? When you aren't doing it the way you used to do it, they have no problem cutting you loose. No problem letting you go. Zero. You've seen it done. This is a team where they have no problem giving up on a guy a year or two early because they see what's happening. And they'll go out and they'll just grab a guy in the 4th, 5th, 6th round and plug him in. And guess what?
You don't think Tom Brady
they get production
with Steve Mariucci? You don't think pairing Tom Brady with Steve Mariucci would have turned out differently?
Yeah.
I think they could have ran an offense that would have been prolific. I think that there would have been an opportunity to really do some damage. Now, you wouldn't have had probably Megatron. You wouldn't have had some of the high-end receivers. But in a fantasy scenario, you could even say that Charles Rodgers could have been Randy Moss with Tom Brady. He would have made these receivers better. That's the one thing you're realizing. Look, Julian Edelman.
How many Super Bowls did Tom Brady win with Randy Moss?
None. But had an undefeated year in the regular season.
They had a very good season.
They had a very great season.
But they didn't win anything.
But hey, you still can't discount the fact they won 16-0 in the regular season and lit it up.
They
were
totally
1 or 2
it.
plays away. We would have taken that here.
You're right. You would have took that.
But
here.
I'm saying that if you had Tom Brady, I think what are we talking about? What have I been lamenting for the last 6 months? A losing culture. I think right away, Tom Brady comes in there and eradicates the losing culture. I think he would have been in the film room. He would have elevated everybody. And for that decade that everybody hates on Matt Millen, I think he would have made Matt Millen into a solid GM. You would have had a good head coach. You would have had some success. I think that Tom Brady obviously is better than Joey Harrington, better than Stoney Case, better than John Kitna.
All of them.
You would have had a quarterback that would have probably, now, like I said, it is a lot of luck that got Tom Brady into the situation. Remember that Drew Bledsoe had to get hurt. But remember, Bill Belichick, that was his second year when this all went down. And since then, after he came in, he changed everything and won the Super Bowl that year. And I do believe that he could have come in here and done that. And so don't discount it. I think it's something to debate. And a lot of fans here in Detroit,
I don't think it's so far-fetched.
A lot of fans don't believe it because the organization's so bad.
You are putting a ton on Tom Brady's shoulders. If you believe he's going to come here and single-handedly rescue this organization.
I think he could have done it. And
change their fortunes.
Even to this day, I would take a 42-year-old Tom Brady and give him Stafford for 2 years.
Oh, hell yeah.
Do it now. And I think that there's an opportunity to really look at Tom Brady, and the marriage, obviously, with Bill Belichick has produced the Patriots, but I think Tom Brady across the National Football League would have done the same thing, and he would have come here, and he would have established himself and a name with the Detroit Lions, and it's a damn shame the Lions and the rest of the league didn't realize what this guy was. And part of it is due to the fact that he was, I don't know if he would have, it's worth debating. If he was drafted in the 3rd round, would he have had the chip on his shoulder? Would he just be another run-of-the-mill quarterback? I don't know. Maybe he would have been Phillip Rivers, but he's Tom Brady because he was drafted in the 6th round, and it's awesome to watch. You just go watch that guy do his business, and it's a marvel. It's amazing, and I do think he could have done it. I will give him that respect. I
think he's awesome.
After 9 Super Bowl appearances or whatever it is, about to win 5 or 6, give me a break, man. Give me a break. He's now 5-3 in the Super Bowl. Holy cow! Losses to the Giants and the Eagles. 5-3 in the Super Bowl. Has a chance to win his 6th. That's how much credit I will give, and I will say he would have won the Super Bowl with the Lions. Great podcast, great debate, sir.
Today was fun, man. I think we disagreed on just about everything.
That's how it's supposed to be.
And it was cool because it was like real respectful disagreeing.
That's right.
Like you're not too far off,
No.
but this is why you're wrong. I thought today was an awesome podcast. Great show today.
Thanks, everybody. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Definitely listen to the Big Drew and Jim show on WDFN. Adam does a great work producing that show. And definitely check out the network at Detroit Podcast. If you want to leave a voicemail or respond to anything that we've said, feel free. 248-579-8686. We greatly appreciate it. See everybody next time.
It's not over yet, so you can ask me that one next week.
Go Blue, bitch.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick. Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.